not even get satisfied with what he had. Remember how colorful and what position Lucifer had, but he wasn't satisfied. He wanted Christ's position and see where it led him. Yes, Brother Maxwell, you got your hand up.
Yes. As you say clearly, there is a very fine line about covetousness, because you don't notice it sometimes, but it grows quietly inside you. Now, sometimes there are situations that we can talk about. For example, I drive an old Volkswagen, and my brother Jason drives a very new Mercedes. I reach a point where I say, well, how can he drive that and I am driving this one? Then the next day I go and buy a bigger car than his. So I start driving that. Can that be defined as covetousness?
No.
At what point does it reach to be covetousness?
No. This is what covetousness is. Let me, using your example, this is how it will turn into covetousness, where you and your old Volkswagen Beetle, every single time you look at Jason's Mercedes, it's like, yeah, I wish that was mine. And you keep saying it until it just becomes an obsession of your heart. Yes. Until you get it, it's jealousy. It's not a good thing. It starts slowly until it reaches a point where you can do anything and everything to get what is bigger than his. Yeah, let us say something.
Really fine line. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because this, what I'm saying, this mentorship. I see Alfred as a teacher. I admire you, and I want to make myself to be better. As you say, or bring myself to this Mercedes that I can be better to try. And I can do everything else to get it, as you say. I could work doubles, or I could sell something to have it because I want to have it. And could be convenient or not, because having to see in a better place that way, I might be associate myself to such a person so I can be better too. So it's really, sometimes I can also still manage to buy it, I get it. Or I can maybe go scratch his car.
Now when you reach, you see, there is that fine line about it. That is why the lesson says it's something that you have to watch out for, because it's just a fine line. When you want to be like him, but then it reaches a point where now you are almost scratching his, so that it's not as good as it should be. Now you see, yes, now you are possessed with it.
But if I get it, it's not bad.
No, you don't be obsessed about getting it. Why is it the yardstick? We are always told the yardstick is Christ. But if you want to be like him, work hard, but don't be obsessed with it.
But I'm working hard. But sometimes if you're not obsessed, you don't have that drive, you will be lazy. But if you have the drive to want, you get to work a little extra.
Which the dictionary says excessive desire. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yep. And not just being obsessed, it becomes so excessive in your life that anything short of getting better, something better than a Mercedes, is like I fell short. Yeah. Yes.
Is there a connection here with being jealous? Because those jealous certain people
A lot of sins don't just grow up by themselves. You get that they are interconnected. Yes, something little leads to another, and then it leads to another, and it leads to another. Yep. A lot of sins you get that they are connected. And I think covetousness and jealousy are intertwined. Yep. Okay, Jason.
My comment I was going to make. So, yeah, there's a fine line on how you want to define that covetousness. Mostly, if I talk from the kissing area, when Christianity came over there, especially the Seventh-day Adventists, I think a lot of people were encouraged when they see the the the, the first follow that most things they were doing is educating their kids and things like that. So it can be, so other Christians were looking at those ones as a role model.
Mhm.
You know, having that Mercedes Benz or whatever, it can be a role model. Somebody else wants to.
Yes, you want to emulate somebody, but then when it becomes an obsession to a point where you want now, assuming you really, let's keep using the example of Jason. Sorry, Jason. Yes. Now you get your Mercedes. Now you feel good. Jason gets a Lamborghini. And now you are back to square one because you want a Lamborghini. So it becomes an obsession, this excessive desire that we should guard against. And some of it is very subtle. Look at on Monday when we were talking about an accursed thing in the camp. You look at oh, did you have your hand up? No. When you look at Achan, here, after 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, the Israelites come to Jericho, and they wonder how they are going to get through those walls. And what did they do? Achan, they went in, and they were told, the order was, yes, you bring all the woods, the gold, and all that, but you were bringing it for the Lord. But what did Achan do? He took some for himself. And all this gold that we are taking is the plunder, is the loot. He took some for himself. And then a plague is getting to everybody, is when they came to find out what Achan did. But the lesson says his heart desired to have that gold, not to follow the word of God. See what the heart did. It was slowly. He coveted it. It's like, instead of taking it, I can take a little of it. What's the big deal? Yeah. But look at the curse that became over, instead of word going around on how well they had done, then now calamity strikes from within because one person is not being obedient. Yeah. And anybody have anything to say about Achan?
With Achan example, I think you can see the covetousness within himself. Because he looked at the beauty and of the gold, and he forgot that those things were all for God, not for other personal individuals to possess. So I think all of us human beings, that's the way we are. God has given you all the blessings, but then you forget that you think they're all yours. You get the point?
I mean, look at it. Here we are, assuming we are a big church. You got all the cash, overflowing with cash, and you got access to it. You go like, I got some bills. If I take just 2,000, won't make much difference. You just take a little out. But see how your heart coveted that money. Your heart, as your desires have become bigger than the order of God. And that is what Achan did here. And it was a sad situation. It just reminded me something I saw on YouTube. Most of you are kisses. The chairman of Shabana Football Club had died. And the political season, people are contributing. When you contribute enough towards the funeral, your name gets mentioned. So this one young man called this one politician and said, you know, this is what is going on. We're doing the fundraising today. The politician said, okay, I'll send the young man 50,000, give them so that let my name gets announced too. Sent him 50,000, but because so much money was coming in, the young put 50,000 aside to use for himself. And he went and blew the 50,000 with his friends, thinking that the guy will not find out. So the guy kept asking him, did you give the money to the widow? And how come I haven't had my name? He was like, yes, I did. I gave the widow. Maybe she forgot, with all that is going on. The guy did his research and found out he had blown the money off. So here is they are having an occasion in Nairobi, a different occasion. And the young man was in the audience. He called him he called him to the stage, nicely dressed. He called him to the stage. And he didn't know. He addressed him. He told him, I gave you, I'm here to shame you so that you can do the correct thing. This is how much I sent you for such and such a funeral, and you did not send it. And I'm telling you, the money that you blew off, you work hard, and you bring shame to people. You return all that money for the mission that I gave you. The young man almost sank on stage. Yes, but this is how it happens. Covetousness, where you are like, I can take a little. Look at Judas. Look at the story of Judas on Tuesday, the heart of Judas. That he says one of the most tragic stories in the Bible is that of Judas Iscariot. This man had a privilege that only 11 other people in all of the history of the world had had, to have been with Jesus all that time and have learned eternal truths directly from the Master himself. How sad that many people who never had anything remotely like the opportunities that Judas had will be saved, while Judas, we know, is now destined for eternal destruction. What happened? Let's read John chapter 12, verse 1 to 8. Somebody read for us, please. John chapter 12, verse 1 to 8. Get the mic. Mm-hmm.
Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus which had been dead, whom we raised from the dead. There they made him a supper, and the mother served, but Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard nuts, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. But the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. The saints, one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him, why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the bag and bare what was put therein. Then said Jesus, let her alone. Against the day of my buying had she kept this. For the poor always ye have with you, and me ye have not always.
Yep. Look at the rebuke that he got. He speaks good. You would think the intentions are good, but Judas' heart was somewhere else. And from there, he went and betrayed Christ. He did not like it. So, was Judas wrong in what he said? Or what is your comment about the entire story? Hello, this is not a sermon, okay? I don't do monologues. Yes.
I can speak something to please everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to come so that I can take advantage of it.
Yes, he was in charge of the money. He saw that if that perfume that to him was wasted, if it was sold, he is the one who was in charge of the money. He was the one who was going to sell it. And he knows how much he was going to take out of it. Yep. But Christ saw right through it and rebuked him. And that leads us to Ananias and Sapphira on Wednesday, who, that it was the early times when the Christianity was young, it was in its infancy. All people shared everything that they had. But this couple here, they decided to make a promise of how much they were going to give. But when they sold the piece of land, they didn't carry through. And sometimes we say that God was harsh. There are times, this was at the infancy. Something was starting. God did not want it to be tainted by this kind of lies. They were not obligated. But if you make a promise to the Lord, carry through. What's your view about Ananias and Sapphira? Yes, Maxwell. I said I'm not going to do a monologue. I'm going to go around about Ananias and Sapphira.
The way I see the problem with Ananias and Sapphira was not that they sold their land. And it was not that they kept back some of the proceeds. But the problem was that they lied. Because in any case, the land was theirs. In any case, the money was theirs. But they took only a little bit of it and pretended that they were giving full amount. So they lied to the Holy Spirit that they were given everything that they had. But because of covetousness, they kept back some of it, and then it led them to lie. So
you lead out to the lesson where it asks, what do you think was worse, holding back part of the money or lying about it?
Lying about it was the problem, because holding back the money was theirs. About it. And now they created another sin.
Let's, okay.
They promised that the proceedings were going to the church, right?
Hmm?
But they didn't fulfill it.
No.
So that's where
They regretted what they had, the promise that they had made.
So that's human beings also. We always promise. We always promise to give to the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really quite give exactly the 100% that we are promising the church. So if they decided that probably the promise at this time when we have sold the land doesn't make sense, we can make adjustments. What's wrong with that?
Question for the class.
The adjustments are possible. But then, even if when you realize this is what you've done, you can go and say, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to have given whole money here, but God, forgive me, I did wrong. Make up for it. A good example is, for me, like when I was coming here, I prayed, okay, I'm going to visa, if I get a visa, I come to